Good evening and welcome to the HHH Racing Podcast, episode 120. I'm your host, Howard Kravitz. Thanks for joining us tonight for a fantastic show talking about Kentucky Derby preps and a huge day this Saturday at Oaklawn with two grade threes with my friend and yours, Matt Bernier. Before we do that, you guys know the drill. Make sure you subscribe right there on the bottom right-hand side of the screen. Hit that notification bell so you know when new content will arise. Smash that thumbs up button. It'll tell YouTube this is a great show and people should watch it. Of course, on my name tag there, you can follow me on Twitter. My Twitter handle continues to grow, at @HKravitz. And on the scroll in the bottom, you can email me, hkravitzhorse@gmail.com. Very quick, a few items. As you can see on the scroll, the next live broadcast, do I have stuff planned for you guys next week? We're going next Wednesday. Chad Schexnader, great guy down in New Orleans. He was on last time. He was popular. A lot of people wanted him back. He's going to be on Wednesday night, folks. Next Wednesday night, regularly scheduled time, 8 p.m. Eastern. We're going to chop up Louisiana Derby Day. It's going to be a fantastic card. That's going to be next Wednesday, as you can see on the bottom of the screen. However, not only excited about that, I am really, and our guest doesn't even know this either, really excited about what's happening. For the first time ever on this show, we are going to be live as races occur next Saturday, not next Saturday, but a week from Saturday morning. That's March 26th. We're going to be live 9:15 Eastern with my friend and yours, Davey Lane, fantastic handicapper from the UK. He's given us great picks. Not only Davey Lane, but a good friend of his and a guy that Davey says is even a better handicapper than he is, Philip Edwards. Two fantastic punters from the UK. We're going to be on live as the races go on in Dubai Saturday morning, March 26th. You do not want to miss this show. There's a lot of great United States-based horses running. We're going to give you tips, suggestions, talk about the races before and after. You are not going to want to miss it. Mark your calendars. March 26th, a week from this Saturday, 9:15 Eastern. We'll be live talking about the Dubai World Cup card with my good friends Davey Lane and Philip Edwards. They will be live from the UK. You guys know about the promotions. I don't want to take too long because I want to get our guest on here. Look below the video player. Click that show more button. We've got promotions for Bets US, my Race Day blog, the podcast pool. Again, if you're new to the show, please make sure you check out below the video player and comment down below the video player. And finally, before we bring on our guest, please make sure you join the live chat in the top right-hand side of the screen. Look, we all know NCAA tournament games are going on. Like I said on Twitter, turn that volume down. Just mute the game. Turn the volume up here and listen to Matt and I chop up a bunch of different topics. We already have a lot of people join the show, but please make sure you comment any questions for Matt Bernier, especially in the live chat. All right, I think that covers everything. We want to get right to Matt as he's been waiting patiently, so let's go to him right now. We all know Matt Bernier does a great job with the In the Money Media, NBC Sports, NBC Sports Edge. You can find him all over the place. Let's bring him on from his palatial estate in an unknown location in the Northeast woods where there's deer running around in the backyard, I believe. Matt Bernier. Matt, how you doing tonight?
How's it going, Howard? Yeah, it's that time of year where the deer are starting to come back out, starting to warm up a little bit. And typically we've got a group of 5, and now it looks like we've got a group of 7. I don't know if they were fawns last year or they were just some stragglers that the group picked up, but got a pack of 7 of them out back.
Maybe they smell some food or something. They're joining in. Not only are we seeing some deer, I don't know about you, for the first time, today was 61 degrees here in Chicago. Yesterday was 65. I saw a flag stick in a golf course. Very exciting. So, of course, it's going to be like 40s and raining this weekend. But I don't know about you. Is the golf fever starting to catch on out there in the Northeast?
Yeah, for sure. We're close. So tomorrow's going to be 60 degrees, the first 60-degree day. I shouldn't say that. There was one when I was over in the Middle East, but, it is what it is. We've still got some cold stuff, though. Next week looks like low 40s. I think there's one local course that's going to try to open up their front 9 next week, which would be nice. I'm looking forward to trying to just get back out there. And I'm sure it's the same way in Chicago now. There's early season spring golf and late season fall golf. and you're basically playing off of frozen ground. The ball bounces all over the place. Probably rolls out another 50 yards than it probably should. But shortly thereafter is the big thaw, and it's just mud, and it's wet, and it's nasty for a good probably 4 weeks. And then you finally get some good stuff. So we won't really have great conditions until, I don't know, mid-May.
Yeah, well, you probably carry a 280, so you don't need the rollout.
I do not.
I'm the old
you
man.
that.
I need to get that 20, 30-yard roll that I won't get till like late May, early June or whatever. But anyway.
I can promise you I do not carry it that far.
All right. Well, anyway, I know you're an active golfer. Look forward. By the way, just really quick before we get into our topics, I just want to say this publicly, and Matt knows this already. I've said it before. I had a chance to, for the first time, actually sit down and have a beverage with Matt. We did that at Christine Lee's outside of Gulfstream on Pegasus Day. I'd met Matt for the first time in person at the Breeders' Cup, but really at Gulfstream, the Pegasus, I had a chance to actually finally sit down and have conversation. Matt was very generous with his time. I just want to tell everyone out there, there are people you see on TV all over, not only in entertainment, but news, etc., that are not genuine, that are not the people that you see. Matt is a great guy. He's very genuine. We talked about, actually, not a lot about horse racing. We talked a lot about life and other things. So, Matt, I just want to say publicly appreciate the time that we had and our budding friendship, and look forward to the next time. Christine Lee is always a good spot there at Gulfstream.
And the same goes to you. I appreciate the kind words. It was nice being able to finally sit down and talk. And Breeders' Cup, unfortunately, it was just you were playing in the contest. I was in the contest. The TV was going on. There's all sorts of different stuff. At least the day before Pegasus, we had a couple of minutes that we could sit down. It was almost an hour and a half or so. So it was nice to kind of be able to chop it up for a little bit. Speaking of, I'm not going to name the brand, but I'm enjoying something from your neck of the woods. A nice IPA with a green label. I'm sure you could probably figure out what I'm talking about.
I do. We've got some good IPAs here for sure. Actually, I had Joe Crucifix on. Big fan of IPAs, Joe is. So I actually lost a case of some IPA to him on a bet. I can't recall what we bet. It was on a race. But anyway, I owe Joe Crucifix, if you ever listen to this, I haven't forgotten. I know I owe you some IPAs. Anyway, yeah, it was a lot of fun, and I sort of fanboyed you with the Breeders' Cup. I felt bad. You were on live with Eddie, and I wanted to talk to you. I actually felt bad. I almost felt like I was bothering you that day. But anyway, well, many more times, my friend. Many more drinks together and dinners and maybe golf, whatnot. All right, let's get it. We already have David. I showed his. Tom is here. Tom's a great guy. I know he comments on your show below the video player. I've met him in San Francisco. Wow, on his bucket list, Matt, to meet you. That's pretty impressive.
Well, Tom, you got to set the bar higher than that, Tom.
B. Clark, I'm not familiar with you. B. Clark, thanks for joining the show. IPAs, I'm not drinking. But Matt, feel free to drink away on St. Patrick's Day. All right, we're going to talk about a few topics, guys. Let me take the banner off the screen. As Matt knows, I click a lot of buttons here. I don't have the great production people. Maybe that'll happen at some point that are involved in the money. Hold on, I take comments off the screen. Sorry about that, Matt. All right, let's get to some topics, Matt. So very quickly, guys, we're going to go into some topics that Matt is pretty much aware of for about, let's say 10, 15 minutes at the most. Matt will just chop it up really quick, and then we'll get into the handicapping at Oaklawn. And once Matt leaves the show, guys, stay on because I'll be talking about my late pick 5 caveman ticket that I want to present. So, Matt, let's talk about this first. You're an excellent sports better. Everyone knows NBC Sports Edge. They can follow you. You, sir, have had some crazy last 4 or 5 days. Let's first talk about the good part. I'm watching the players, and a gentleman named Kevin Kisner, who, if you're a casual sports fan, you might have heard of him. You don't know him that well, probably. He's a solid veteran golfer, and Matt does deep dives on his bets. What were you thinking, Matt? Not only did you predict the crazy weather weekend, but this guy had a hell of a weekend. Finished, was it 4th? I'm sorry. I think he finished 4th. I'm sure you cashed some tickets because you had some prop bets going. What were you thinking as Kevin Kisner was rocking it out? And then Sunday late got real interesting with sort of a birdie barrage, and some others were sort of falling by the wayside.
The thing that will probably go unnoticed by anybody that wasn't focused on Kevin Kisner, which most people weren't. I think his best round of the 4 days was actually the day that he shot 74 in the wind, because he shot 2 over, but the way that the conditions were presenting themselves for him to be able to hang around the way that he did, when a lot of guys, I said it on the NBC Sports Edge podcast last night. I mean, a lot of other guys, the big guys, got blown out to sea. Morikawa was nowhere. Koepka was nowhere. I'm naming just a handful of guys. For him to kind of grind it out, and that was a little bit of the logic from a handicapping standpoint that he's not blessed with the natural tools that a Dustin Johnson or a Rory McIlroy or any of those guys are. He doesn't hit it 315, 320 yards. He's just not exceptional at any one thing, but he's a proper grinder. He's going to go out there, put his nose down, and if it gets tough, he's going to thrive because some of these other guys that, need things to be, I don't want to say need things to be, but really excel when conditions are ideal. That's not the case for him. Those guys could wilt a little bit. He's going to keep trudging on. And it was fun. I knew on, I guess, Monday, technically, it wasn't a likely outcome that he was going to be able to get up there, especially with the front nine, because he just wasn't making enough birdies. He was scrambling his brains out, but it was purely to get up and down to save par, just these real grindy sort of scores. And when he wasn't making enough birdies, I knew it was unlikely. And then he did. He went on that tear over the final 4 or 5 holes, and you started to see some weird stuff happen where Keegan Bradley pitches it out into the water. And then, the brain cramp of all brain cramps for Cam Smith to do the exact same thing when I figured it was genuinely going to be just pitch it into the fairway, get up and down, you get out of there with a bogey, so be it. He ended up getting out of there with a bogey. He just did it the hard way.
He almost pulled Jean Van Del or whatever from the British Open. I'm watching. I'm like, I could do that. I could pitch it too far into the water. This guy's got the lead in the players, and he, hit it literally 15, 20 yards too far. Crazy. Anyway, so that was a lot of fun. By the way, Justin Thomas said his best round he's ever had was the second round, which I guess went over a few days when he shot a 74. I had a blast just watching them spray it all over the place. I don't know, maybe I'm sort of masochist, but it's sort of, there's a part that just enjoys watching them struggle because I guess it feels more like us. So that was the good part, and I know there were some people on Twitter that were happy about the catch on Kevin Kisner. So congratulations to that, Matt. And I've had my share of pretty good betting days lately too, so I know how that feels. It's really exciting. Then today in the NCAA tournament, literally perhaps the best shooting team in the entire tournament goes 6 for 29, I think, from the 3-point line. I looked it up. Your sort of long shot dark horse pick to win it all. And the Iowa Hawkeyes and the Big Ten, here we go again, blew a gasket and loses to Richmond. Ouch.
Yeah, and it was one of those things too. And I, obviously I was wrong. It is what it is. You're going to be right sometimes. You're going to be wrong sometimes. I just, under no circumstances, thought a team like that would go that cold. Their bread and butter is shooting outside, and for them to shoot just under 21% from three, that's stunning. And I said it to my wife when I got home. I had to go out and pick up a couple things out at the store. And I said, a 12-5 upset, really, we all like to make a big deal out of 12-5s or 11-6s. They're really not that crazy. And when you think about it, a 5 or a 6 seed is effectively somewhere between 20 and 24 as far as, if you were ranking the teams 1 through 64. We're not talking about the cream of the crop. And then conversely, the 11-12s, they're really 44 through 48 roughly. It's not like there's a giant chasm between the ability levels of these teams. It's just Richmond needed Iowa to be as bad as they were from outside to just eke out the victory. I'm sure everyone involved with the Iowa Hawkeyes program is going to have many sleepless nights just because it feels like they just kind of, I don't want to say gift wrapped it because that makes it sound like I'm not giving Richmond any credit. But boy, when you've got an instance like this where a team that shoots the ball as well as they do, they just can't buy a bucket. That's got to be a tough one for them to swallow. And look, as far as I'm concerned, hey, it is what it is. I'm looking at the scoreboard right now. We got a couple other big upsets brewing. You got New Mexico State up big on UConn right now. St. Peter's and Kentucky are tied at halftime.
They're tied. I'm looking at it right now too.
Actually,
I got a bet going. I got a bet going right now, Matt. That makes me very happy. I got a 3-team parlay here, and I wish we could talk Lawrence side. I'll tell everyone right now so people can criticize me later. I've got a 3-team parlay, and I don't do sports betting or parlays that often, but I'm starting to get into a little more. I've got Vermont upsetting Arkansas, okay? Murray State winning, just outright winning, and St. Mary's covering the -3. I'm getting 8-1 on that. So I think all those are possible. Right now, St. Mary's, by the way, up 11. And people are going to be listening to this on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and Anchor on Saturday morning saying, we already know the score, Howard, you dummy, and Matt. We already know. I know, but we're live, folks, Thursday night here. So Anyway, I went to IU and I'm betting against IU because they just played Tuesday night. Blah blah blah. Anyway, we could talk forever. NCAA is a lot of fun though, Matt, isn't it? Despite what
I think
happened
that,
today for you.
well, and to be fair, I mean, so it was a future ticket that, unfortunately doesn't work out. But let's be honest, most future tickets don't work out. So
No.
the good thing is we have all these other games that you can still get down on. I've got one more bet coming up later on tonight. I already cashed Michigan. I bet Michigan live at halftime money line.
I saw that.
That was I mean, you is a math individual can appreciate the idea of the regression to the mean for one team versus the other. And I mean, there's just no way that Michigan was going to shoot as poorly. And I shouldn't say they shot poorly. Overall, they actually shot quite well. Of
course, you probably said that about Iowa too at halftime.
I know.
Whatever.
I know.
Anyway.
So I ended up cashed the under on the Baylor game. And then tonight I've got over in San Francisco and Murray State. So got a couple more things, and then got a couple games lined up for tomorrow as well. But again, it is what it is. You take a shot. I wanted to go against one of the top 4 seeds. I thought Iowa was a live dog, and they were just a dog.
And that can happen. Follow Matt on NBC Sports Edge and on Twitter. He's a fantastic sports bettor. You can learn all about him. Absolutely red hot earlier in college basketball. Tailed off a little bit, but now he's coming back.
And I don't want to interrupt you. I was all over Morikawa for the Valspar. I don't know what you can get for a number on him now. If you watched any of his round today, for him to shoot 3 under, I thought, as far as he's concerned, I didn't think he played particularly well, and he's only 4 back. I think he has a tremendous amount of upside over the next 3 days. So I don't know what he's listed at. I got him at 14. He's probably somewhere right around there, maybe even a little bit farther back than that. But if anybody's looking to get down for the next few days on golf, Morikawa, I think he's very live given the way he played today.
Book it, folks. Morikawa to win the Valspar. All right, so Matt, I was going to ask you a little bit about Saudi. We'll save that for another time because it's already almost 7:20 here. So I want to talk Kentucky Derby preps. But Matt, for the first time, went to Saudi. I thought your coverage out there was fantastic. By the way, we can talk about that. I'm sure that was a great experience. Here's what we're going to do, Matt. There are 5 main 100-point Derby preps. I'm going to show each one on the screen. Literally 30 seconds. I'm going to list a few horses that are expected to go in these races. You tell me who you like of the horses that you see on the screen and why. Literally 10, 15 seconds for each one. And again, what I did some research. We don't know exactly who's going, but I've been reading. Things are becoming more set. Are you ready? These are just the 5 major Derby preps, folks.
You're putting me on the spot.
Listen, that's how I roll, Matt. That's all right. Listen, there's the UA Derby, guys. There's other races. We're just talking about the major 5 races in the United States, 100-point preps. Here we go. See in the bottom of the screen. Louisiana Derby. It looks like we got Epicenter, Zozos, Rattle, and Roll. I know who you like best. Just tell us why, though.
So what am I missing? Who is Zozos? Am I way behind?
Oh, no. Zozos is a very talented horse that just broke his maiden for Brad Cox, I believe.
Oh, see, this is how far I'm deep into sports these days. I don't even know who Zozos is.
We both love Epicenter, I know.
Of those two, I mean, I got to be honest. From a gambling standpoint, I would bet Rattle and Roll over Epicenter because part of me thinks that the pace is going to be much. I love Epicenter, but he needs to show that there is more of a dimension than what we've seen. His best runs have come when he's been on the lead. Given the way this thing is setting up, maybe not the Louisiana Derby, but overall, he's not going to get the lead in these other races. There's too much speed. Rattle and Roll, I bet him in there at he can't be anything less than 8-1 after that run in Florida.
Yeah, he's coming back quick, which in 3 weeks, but I sort of like that move, and the long stretch will help Rattle and Roll, but he's got to get a lot better. Arkansas Derby, it looks like we got Secret Oath for the coach. We the People, a nice allowance horse who I actually like a lot. I believe Cox and Windstar, or maybe I don't think it's Pletcher. I think it's Cox.
It's Rudy Brissett.
I'm sorry, Brissett, excuse me, but is Windstar, I know. I really like this horse, by the way. Cyberknife. Any opinion on these 3 or any of these 3 going forward?
I haven't watched the tape on We the People, but when I was over in Saudi, we were at a dinner and Florent Giroux was there, and he said, keep an eye on this horse. He's pretty good. We the People. Yeah. And sure enough, I think it was a couple of weeks later, he came back and he won that race, low 90 by or something like that. I'll be curious to see what he does. Honestly, I think Secret Oath has as good a chance as any in Arkansas. I just think it's a bad bunch of horses at this point. Why? I think it's the perfectly reasonable move. I know a lot of people don't like the idea of fillies against the boys. She fits in there just as well as any of the boys do.
Absolutely. I do. I hope the coach follows through. He said he's going to the Preakness with Secret Oath. I think that's where she belongs. I don't know. I don't think she's good enough to beat the boys, but it would be fascinating to see. Obviously, Lucas can do that with a 3-year-old filly, that's for sure. All right, Florida Derby simplification. White Abarrio in due time. Charge it. Any of these four? Who do you like best? Again, we don't know post positions, guys. We're
Sure.
just spitballing here a few weeks away. Who do you like most here? In not only that race, but maybe going forward, Matt.
I know the Pletcher connections have been high on Charge It for a long time. I've got to go back and watch the tape on the horse. I know he's relatively quick,
Yeah.
but purely by default, I don't want any of the other three. So I would take Charge It.
I love Charge It. He's got to go 2 turns, Matt. He's only gone a mile twice. Broke his maiden last time. Very talented. Another horse with some speed. What we I know you talked about on your show. By the way, if you guys are not watching the Matt Bernier show, you got to watch it. He breaks down these Derby preps fantastically. I agree with you, Matt. It looks like for the first time in years, we finally might have a pace that I won't say meltdown, but perhaps a mid-packer closer winning the Derby this year. Wood Memorial, Morello, Mo Donegal, early voting.
I don't. I may be getting suckered into this. I really like early voting. I said it on my show all those weeks ago that I thought he was legitimate. Mo Donegal, I think he's better than what you saw in Florida. I think he'll appreciate getting back to New York. I may be getting suckered into Morello. I thought he was really, really good winning that last race, that one turn Gotham. I don't know if he can stretch out at face value. The pedigree suggests he should have no issue doing so. I love his tactical ability. He continues to improve. Perfect 3 for 3. I don't know. I'm getting more and more intrigued by Morello as each passing day goes by.
Yeah, I of those three, I personally like Mo Donegal, but he has to prove it. I just think he wants distance, and he's getting back to his best distance, in my opinion. What I think might be the best of the 100-point preps, the Bluegrass. You got two horses that were in the Risen Star and have chosen to go to the Bluegrass. At least that's what it looks like right now. Zandon, Smile Happy, and the classic Causeway Love out there, Matt. I know you talked about the time, the speed difference with the buyer versus Craig Mulkowski on the time form. I don't understand the classic Causeway Love personally, but I don't want to give my bias. You're the guest tonight. These three, who do you like the most right now?
Well, a quick comment on Classic Causeway. I think he's a good horse. He's
Yeah,
just got a lot going against him, I think, from a dynamic standpoint. And depending on what you look at, he's got to run faster. Zandon, I have no issue with him. I think Chad's going to do right by him, put him in the position he thinks is best suited. Personally, I'm more and more feeling like if Smile Happy runs his best race, he's just better than everyone else. That includes the California horses, which we'll talk about. I thought his run down to Louisiana, first out of the box, a little bit of a questionable ride. For him to finish the way that he did, I thought it was very encouraging. I expect him to take a step forward. Smile Happy, I thought he was probably the best 2-year-old. So far, I think there's a reasonable case to be made. He's still the best 3-year-old.
yeah, he's really talented. I like Zandon a lot. I wish I bet him. I talked about him on my show. He was like 80 to 1 when he broke his maiden in Pool 1. I meant to bet him. I effed up and just completely forgot. He's going to come from, but he's a closer, but it might set up well for him. He has a little bit to prove still, also, but I really like his upside. Maybe later in the summer for like the Travers, he might be better then. We'll just have to see for the for those bigger races, the Haskell down the road later in the summer. All right, last one really quick. We don't know what's gonna happen to Baffert. That's a whole other show. I don't even want to talk about the nonsense that's going on right now. But out of fairness to the connections and these horses, I'm assuming they're both gonna be lining up in the San Diego Derby. If you had to choose which one of the two right now that you like in that race, or even in the Derby, let's just assume Messie's gonna go for the Derby, just for argument of the conversation. What do you think?
I want to see another race from Messier just to prove that last one was legitimate. I think it may be a little bit phonied up as far as how fast it actually was given the racetrack.
Yeah.
But at the same time, he has shown that he can pass horses. Forbidden Kingdom is not. And if Forbidden Kingdom has to deal with all the other pace early on that could potentially be in a race like the Derby, Messier could take advantage of that because he's not dependent on getting it. I think Forbidden Kingdom has more, not untapped potential, but potential. But perhaps dynamics, if we're thinking a race like the Kentucky Derby, could work to a horse like Messier's favor.
Yeah, then I don't know how good Messi is. Sometimes San Anita, if there's any track in the country where you want a horse to stretch out and get a big number going 2 turns, it's probably San Anita. he lost to Slow Down Andy, and Slow Down Andy did nothing in Louisiana. I know you can't always compare those things, but to me, I agree with you. Messier's got some stuff to prove. All right, before we get into Oaklawn, we're getting a lot of questions, and respectfully, those of you that are watching, thank you for watching. Uh, because of the time constraints tonight, we want to get to Oaklawn, and there's a lot of things going on. If you have questions for Matt, hit him up on Twitter. He's a great follow.
We can all. I can stretch to 9 also. We can buy a couple extra minutes.
Okay, I want to be respectful of your time.
Yeah.
I appreciate that. We got one. I'll bring up one question. My good friend Jim Pilars. It's not really a question. He just mentioned. He was on my show last week and mentioned this, and you've talked about it too. That since the point system began, you want to be up close to the lead, but that might be different this year. And there's not really a question there. But the question from Tom, boy, you want to talk about? I've had some great fantastic scores in live money contests, as a lot of people know, and I'm blessed and ecstatic and happy and honored and all that. My command performance and giant game future picks down the tubes. Any thought about giant game? I thought he was going to be a lot better after he had the little surgery with the displaced palate. Just didn't fire. Dale Romans, I guess he's got to wait till races in Kentucky before his horses fire, Matt. I was surprised, to be honest. With this
yeah, well, the Breeders' Cup performance was a bit of a stunner to me. I just didn't see it coming. And then the Florida race, if you want to say that it was the displaced palate, that's fine. When Nick Tamaro and I were on the Late Show last week, I made a comment and Nick said, "Isn't it funny that just immediately afterward the horse displaced?" I mean, it almost, who knows? It is what it is. But then he came back and ran as poorly as he did. To me, I'm at a point now where both he and command performance, and I loved him as a 2-year-old. But command performance just flat out has not really. He hasn't done enough to earn the reputation that he has. He's a fine horse. He was arguably a better 2-year-old than he is right now. But the point is that at this point in time, it doesn't really make any sense to talk about either of them as Triple Crown kind of horses because they're simply not good enough.
Yeah, command performance, I have to say, was hugely disappointing. I don't even know. We don't need it. We're not going to go on. He still's got to break his maiden. I think he's won like 250K, though, without breaking his maiden yet, or some crazy number, because he did so well last year, finishing second in some big races. Anyway, we'll see if we have more questions. Let's get on to Oaklawn, Matt, because we got a great card on Saturday. There's 2 grade 3s going out of Oaklawn. We're going to chop up the late pick 5. I'm going to do things a little bit differently in terms of what you see on the bottom, ladies and gentlemen. Usually you see a banner at the bottom for those of you watching here on YouTube, but I'm just going to do a scroll instead. So you see a scroll on the bottom. Matt, there's a blank there, but he'll give us his picks as we go along. Everyone can see all of my picks for all 5 races at one time. I sort of like this scroll idea a little bit better. But comment down below the video player if you prefer a scroll, or if you want me to just put banners up, because I want to hear what you guys have to say. Let's go to the PPs here. We're going to bring them up, Matt. We're going to rock and roll here. And I'm going to go full screen for some of this. The first race, this is the late pick 5 on Saturday at Oaklawn Park. First race of the sequence, Matt, starts about 4:33 Eastern Standard Time. There are some big fields, as usual, at Oaklawn. They're going a mile on dirt. 3-year-olds, great purse, 90,000. You're gonna have a big favorite, probably smaller than 2-1 on the inside. Masai Warrior for Brad Cox and Drew.
Yeah, look, I'm going to throw out Masai Warrior. I'm also going to throw out General Strike in here, and maybe it's a foolish move, but again, I'm kind of the opinion. I like to play smaller tickets. I don't like to spread too deep. I don't want to be spending $250, $300 at a time on a pick 5 that could end up being chalky or this, that, or the other. If you really wanted to go full-blown ABCs, you could certainly go ahead and use those horses. I'm just more intrigued by 3 other ones, but one in particular, that being the 8 Battle Call. I think Battle Call is really interesting in here. First off, the claim for Hollendorfer. Never easy to claim off of somebody like Brad Cox and move the horse up. But I thought all things considered, it was a really good effort. Thought he ran a winning race in the career debut, going long. He was wide throughout, moved to the lead. And that other horse, Blue Norther, just blew the doors off him. Now Hollendorfer takes the blinkers off. They move from a maiden claiming event to a protected event here. And you've got a 59 flat bullet drill in your back pocket going 5/8 there on March 9th. So Battle Call would be, if I was going with an ABC sort of play, he would be a lone A for me in here.
Wow. Well, you see my picks on the bottom or the bottom as they scroll. I completely. I'm going to put us back on screen a little bit here. I I'm going to say something that might be a bit contradictory. Um, I totally agree with Matt. I'm going to try to beat Masai Warrior, but I still have to use him as an A only because he just seems better than the rest of them. But there's a few things I don't like, Matt. I don't like the rail when there's a lot of other speed in the race. Number two, I mean, he regressed last time. I don't see like great moves forward from this horse. He did work very well last time. Maybe his day is going to be on Saturday, but this is the kind of horse I think a lot of people will, that want to try to make some money at least or get value or and try to beat. So although I don't have him on top, I'm going to try to beat him. I don't know if that I sound like an amateur handicapper, man. I don't know, but that's how I feel. By the way, I do have 8 second. I don't know if you saw on the scroll. I agree with everything you said about Battle Call, Horonis Racing, blah, blah, blah. I'm going to let you talk about the others. I do have the 4 Plausible Denial in third for DeVito, who's very underrated and was pretty wide in a good field last time. Um, how do you feel about the 4 or some other sneaky horses you're trying to beat here with the 1?
Yeah, I had Plausible Denial in third. I thought it was a fine effort. Nice gallop out in that career debut. You would think moves forward, second off the bench, stretching out in distance for DeVito. The horse that I went with in second is just to his inside, the 3 Kingmaker for Ron Moquette. I thought it was I thought it was all things considered a pretty good debut. Blew the start. I thought he started warming up, rounding that far turn while he was wide, finished well. All things considered, solid debut. Try to stretch out here, second out of the box. The fig, if you depending on what figs you look at, maybe not on the buyer scale, but from a time form standpoint, you could make a case that that horse ran the fastest race out of any of these horses to date so far in his
Yeah,
career debut. So I could see Kingmaker taking a step forward here. The runner-up came back, broke his maiden with an 83 buyer in that next start. So I think
that's
the
good.
form is holding up relatively well, and I could see this one. Again, knowing that you've got some other horses that are going to take some money, I could see Kingmaker at least being a factor in this thing at a very square price.
I'm going to push back a little bit, Matt, because because I love you, and also because I want to give people at home, my opinions. So I'm a little concerned about the damn this hey kitty 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 great name was a sprinter, Matt. I'm assuming the horse could probably stretch out. I'm a little concerned that he might be meant for sprinting, and the other one is he galloped out well, but the race sort of fell apart. They went very quick, 21 and 4. It wasn't 71 buyer is perfectly fine. I don't know. I think he's going to take more money than he should. He can absolutely win. I've got him in the mix, Matt. I just think he's going to be, you know, 9-2 and maybe isn't better than, some of the others that we've talked about. But I agree. He's definitely interesting. Anyone else you want to talk about? You talked about General Strike. I mean, he didn't face great fields last year. Chasing Time's a nice horse, but I don't know. He's gelded. That's not a move that Asmussen usually would do with a 3-year-old Matt. I found that a little bit, I don't know, disturbing, but off-putting would be the word that I would say. I mean, you don't see that very often from him. It is Winchell and Rosario. I don't know. He just doesn't. I don't. He hasn't been working like fantastically. Anything else I didn't cover that you don't like about this horse?
No, I mean, feel very similar about the 7 as I do about the 1 as I do about the 5. They've run 3 to 4 times. They haven't gotten appreciably faster in any of the races.
Yeah.
The connections are changing some things up. Cox is going from the fairgrounds to Oaklawn. Diodoro's gelded their horse. First time Lasix in a gelding process for General Strike. I mean, to me, and it's as simple as if I'm wrong, great. I come back and play the pick 4. I have no interest in using these horses at short prices.
Someone comment. I made a mistake, guys. Matt is not 5.73 in this race. That was from my show last time. Now it's blank, so I apologize. Someone just mentioned you didn't do anything wrong, Matt. That was my f up there. Matt, just your top 3 before we move on to the next race again.
8-3-4.
All right, Matt is going. Let's bring this on the screen. Matt is going 8-3-4 here, ladies and gentlemen, in race 6. Let's go to the second leg, Matt. Race 7. This is one of 2 grade 3s. I'll go full screen here. This is the Whitmore. What a fun horse, by the way, that was. A nice gelding for Ron Moquette. Won the Breeders' Cup sprint. Won a lot of races. Ran for a long time. They're naming a race after him. Well deserved. 6 furlongs for the boys. 200,000. Matt, who do you like in the Whitmore?
Well, first things first, I don't know that I love some of the shorter prices in here. Hollis does nothing for me on the outside. I think he's a fine horse, but when they've tested him, he's come up wanting. Not that this is the greatest group, but genuinely, whenever he's really been tested, he just hasn't passed it. So for me, at a short price, he's one that I'd be fading. I'm also kind of against Greeley and Bennon here for Broberg. He's another one. I feel like they have done a very good job managing him, putting him in appropriate placements. This to me seems like a little bit of a tough spot, even with the second and third place finishers in the most recent run winning next out with buyers of 86 and 83. The two that I was really interested in, one of them is very logical. That's Bob's Edge. I have picked him second in here for Larry Jones. I thought that King Cotton was really good. I loved the way that he moved. I just thought all around it was really impressive. The second place finisher, home base, came back and won next out with a 93. The fifth place finisher was Hollis, who we saw he came back and he earned that pretty nice speed figure. But the horse that I really am most interested in is the 7, Two-Lane Trist. And I think it's just a matter of you need to put your faith in what your eye is telling you. On paper, he's not as fast as some of these other horses. But this has been a horse that's always kind of, I don't want to say had an air of class to him, but you watch him run. He does everything professionally. He's able to overcome some, let's say, less advantageous situations. And when things go his way, he fires a big shot. I thought that return at the fairgrounds last out was really solid. I know they lined up in front of him. There was 3 horses that just dueled on the front. He bided his time, took over when he was asked, and drew off and won for fun. I think he's a horse that, again, if you're somebody that just looks at the paper, you're going to look at it and go, when he's been tested, he's not good enough and he's not fast enough. But I think you're looking at a horse that we haven't really scratched the potential for him just yet. I think he could be a pretty good racehorse.
Oh, sorry, I want to do that. I want everyone to know at home, and Matt, you can confirm this. We did not talk about your picks at all before you just came on tonight, correct?
No, but I mean, I don't know if it's a good thing or I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing. Why, do you like this horse as well? Because I may be hurting you.
So at the bottom of the screen, you can see the scroll here. It's coming. You can see race 7 here. You can see my picks. There it is, Matt. You can see on the bottom of the screen the H, race 7, 729. Yeah. I mean, part of the reason those of you watching at home and listening later on why I've had some success in live money tournaments is because of horses like Two-Lane Trist. And I've learned from not only my own past handicapping, but great handicappers like Matt and other people. This horse is slow on paper. I mean, the best he's run is a 91. But, ladies and gentlemen, you got to look for upside. It's like the stock market. Who is going to run the best race on Saturday? I don't know if it's Two-Lane Trist, but I agree with everything that Matt said. This horse is improving. He's going to be, closing into what looks like a fast pace. He worked a bullet. He's the now horse. I still think you're going to get a price. I mean, everything about this horse, the 2 can win. I'm not going to show the replay. He ran very well last time. He did get the jump on some others. I will say that, but he ran about as well as a horse could run last time. Maybe the 2 is just a brand new horse. We don't need to talk any longer. You can see my picks on the bottom. I agree 100% with Matt. I'm going 7-2. I put Hollis in third because I do like outside speed, and I know that's something you like also. But I'm concerned about the distance with Hollis. I mean, his best races look like they're probably 5.5. You see those 2 big numbers, folks. The last one and 3 back where he won by 4, 109 and 97 buyers. Those are going 5.5, and there is some legit other speed in this race. So I'm not sure the distance will suit. I hate the price on Hollis. We're both going 7-2. Anyone else, Matt, you want to talk about before we move on?
No. I mean, it's 7-2 cold for me in this spot. I shouldn't say cold, but I mean, I like Two-Lane Trist quite a bit. As far as whoever finishes third, I mean, I won't be playing a trifecta anyway, so I can't help you there.
All right. I love it. Let's go on to race 8. This is another main special weight, and what I found strange about these big field main special weights on Saturday, Matt, is there are going to be 2 pretty big favorites. The Masai Warrior, I'm convinced, is going to be a big favorite. Whether he wins or not, I don't know. There's another horse that's going to be a big favorite, in my opinion, Life on the Nile, who has buyers that are improving. But again, I think this horse is more likely than Masai Warrior, but I'm still not convinced about this horse. How much do you like this morning line favorite?
Not a ton, if I'm being honest. I mean, he was 10-1 in that most recent start. All the figs jumped up in that race. for all the horses, if you could pull up the chart, if you don't mind,
Yep,
you can go
absolutely.
through and take a look. The difference between their start prior and this most recent run, they all jumped up 11 to 18 points, with the exception of that one horse, Quick to Blame, who only jumped up 2. But my point is, they all substantially moved forward. There's a part of me that doesn't believe that. And I also just don't know. He needs that race in order to really be deserving of 2-1. You take that race out of it,
Yeah.
he's, I don't know, he's just kind of common. He fits in here, but he's not a standout by any stretch. So, Life on the Nile, this is a race, Howard, that you're probably going to need to do much more of the lifting than I, because there's only one horse that I really found interesting in here. I thought about the 4 El Gamar for a minute, but I thought he was more passing tired horses than anything. The horse that I landed on was Major Contender, the 7, for Cox and Ricardo Santana. Going to be a short price, stretching out in distance. They're changing the equipment, taking the blinkers off for the first time. The family on the dam side is all dirt routers for the most part. I thought he broke really sharp. He was a little bit keen early on in that run at the fairgrounds most recently, and he was just kind of flat when they really started running. By no means is it a brilliant sort of performance, but I don't know. I mean, I couldn't really. He was the only one that was mildly intriguing to me. I hope Santana's aggressive. I hope they go to the front with him, or at least prompt the pace, because I just think it's a group that's kind of hungry.
Yeah, I just wanted to show the breeding here because I think this horse is meant to go long. Pussyfoot only ran once, but the baby is out of Pussyfoot. See, Guide Missile was although in the sort of Midwest at Prairie Meadows and Will Rogers Downs was a 2-turn horse and a nice horse. Right and Just was very well meant last year in certain races in the Triple Crown. So you'd have to think this horse wants to stretch out, blinkers off. Matt, you and I, I wish we could, have like totally crazy different opinions. As of this point, we don't. I don't know, again, if you can see it on the screen. I do have the 5 on top, but again, that's probably stinking thinking, to be honest, for every reason you mentioned. I really tried to find, I'll put us back on screen a little bit here. I tried so hard, Matt. I must have handicapped this race for half an hour. I watched like 8 different replays. I so desperately wanted to find, another, sort of cute horse to use here. I couldn't find one, and I'm not even sure Major Contender is the one. I mean, 62, 63. I get you have to assume the blinkers off and the connections are going to help improve this horse. But I mean, what has this horse really done on the track that gives you a lot of confidence? I mean, but there's just a lot of the replays I watched, ladies and gentlemen, of horses that I just weren't interested. Although I will say one horse that I am interested a little bit, Matt. This is just a crazy thought. The 1, Young Turk. And the only reason why I want to consider the 1, Matt, is because this horse has not raced since last year in May. So this is one of the early 2-year-old races at Churchill. I know he only got a 39. It was in a restricted main race because he was only, sold for 35,000 at the OBS March sale. I mean, we have no idea what this horse can be, right? I mean, Maker could run this horse in a zillion other spots as I put us back on screen, Matt. I just like the fact that Maker said, you know what, I'm going to run at a very tough circuit at Oaklawn for 90,000 when he could have run him in a maiden claiming, he could have run him in a million places. Again, I have no idea if this horse can run, but listen, he can improve a lot from his first start. He's also bred to go longer. That's my crazy idea in this race.
Well, I mean, I don't know that I think it's crazy. When you think about it, to your point, he was an early 2-year-old when they ran him.
Yeah.
And for him to earn a 39, really, when you compare that to what these other horses have run as 3-year-olds, with the exception of that 79 from Life on the Nile, which again, I don't know that I'm totally sold on. I mean, it's not like he's impossible in here. You would think if you like a horse like Young Turk, I think you're intrigued by the unknown, the fact that he is unexposed, where some of these other horses, we've seen them a few times and they just really haven't done anything impressive. They're going to need to take a big step forward. I guess the only thing I'd throw out possibly about Fast Lane would be this would be the second time out in the afternoon with the blinkers, which I think can be just as effective, if not more so, than first time with the blinkers. But again, you're kind of reaching there, and I don't need to find out at 9-2 or 5-1. He's 6-1 on the line. It's just a race that if it wasn't part of a pick, I wouldn't touch it with a 10-foot pole, if I'm being honest.
Yeah, I agree. I'm going to try to beat the 5, but the 5 can win. I don't know. I feel very similar about this race as I do as the first leg. So, ladies and gentlemen, go for it. Find a horse you like and try to beat these favorites here. Let's go on to the next race, Matt. This is the other grade 3. This is the Essex Handicap. mile 16 for the older boys, $500,000. You know what I found fascinating about this race? I believe the youngest horse in this race is 6. So this is sort of the old fogey kind of, I don't know, grade 3. I mean, these are nice horses, don't get me wrong, but it's sort of shocking for me in a 2-turn nice grade 3 race for $500,000, Matt, that we see no 4-year-olds and no 5-year-olds in this race. I don't know if you noticed that or not. I found that sort of bizarre and interesting. Who do you like here in the Essex?
I think first to touch on that, I think a lot of it has to do with just its placement on the calendar, where you've got the
Yeah,
Saudi Cup and you've got the Dubai World Cup, and just a couple months ago, you had the Pegasus. I mean, the 4 and 5 year olds, the good ones anyway, are targeting those races. That's why, unfortunately, a race like the Essex kind of falls through the cracks. Um, I I don't have a great deal positive to say about this race. I went through the horses that I ended up landing on are both what I would deem hangers. The 7 Bow Luminary and the 8 Hanalei Houdini. Neither of them really are intent on winning, but I just didn't want anybody out of the local races. I didn't think either of them were particularly good. And I know Bow Luminary comes out of that run in the Tinsel back at the end of December. I mean, more so the idea of the Razorback and the other race there that one of the other horses came out of.
yeah.
Which one
Can
was
we
it?
can we show that race real quick, Matt? If you don't mind, not the whole
Sure,
race,
fire
but
away.
there are a lot of horses. So, folks, there's 4 of the top 5 are in this race in the Essex that ran. We're not going to show the whole race, but what we will talk about, I'm sure, and Matt talks about this a lot about race flow on his show, is they basically went 1-2 around the track. Not basically, they did go 1-2 around the track. You're going to see Plainsman up here. You got Radar Superstar. You got a lot of horses. This is Plainsman on the outside. Who, by the way, Matt, I think is a nice horse. Probably a little bit underrated, frankly. I liked him in the Cigar Mile that day and had a rough trip in the stretch. That's a whole other conversation if you recall that race. But I mean, he just takes over here. The 6 fights pretty hard. The 1 is in this race. Also, that's Thomas Shelby, I believe, right, Matt? But I mean, he
Thomas
got a.
Shelby's actually down on the inside.
Oh, I'm sorry. Thomas Shelby's here, getting a. Oh, sorry, right here. I'm sorry. The 1 is in this race also. I shouldn't have switched so quickly. The 1 got a perfect trip. I'll go back to the chart. Plainsman just takes over. Thomas Shelby fights. Just no movement from the back of the pack, Matt.
No, it's just one of those races that you either love the top 2 or 3 or you want to fade almost all of them. I guess of the group, to your point, Plainsman's actually a pretty decent horse. I don't want to make it sound like I think he's a bum, but I just he's the kind of horse that's interesting at 10 or 12 to 1 in a tougher race. He's not that interesting to me as the 8 to 5 favorite. The same goes for Warriors Charge. Warriors Charge to me at this level, and again, I'm not saying much about this level. I think he's a need the lead type, and I'm sure some folks would look at that last run and say he rallied from 5 off of it. What do you mean he's a need the lead type? There was a runoff pace setter that day who stopped
Yeah.
cold with a quarter of a mile to go, and this horse just took over. Somebody had to inherit the lead. I don't trust him at all at a short price. And again, he will be bet, I think, shorter than that 7 to 2. He's
Yeah.
probably going to be vying for favoritism. So if it's not those 2, and I don't like any of the other ones that led me to the outside, Bow Luminary, I guess, of the 2 is probably slightly more likely than the outside runner, the 8 Hanalei Houdini. Bow Luminary is the kind of horse that, for whatever reason, just hasn't had great pace setups really for the better part of a year now. Has run into a number of slowly paced races and still comes with a run. The problem is, even in the wins, I mean, we're not talking about decisive wins. We're talking about 3/4 of a length, a head, a neck. I mean, just barely likes to get up there. In some of these instances, it looks like probably should have gone on by and never did. And the same goes for Hanalei Houdini. I mean, that Jennings from Laurel most recently, the form is fantastic. Cordmaker came back and won next out. I believe it was the General George with a 98.
Take a look
The
at
third
it right here. Yep.
third place finisher came back and won next out with a 102. I mean,
Yeah.
you've got solid form in there, and this horse stumbled badly out of the gate, still came with a run, but I wrote in my notes he hung. He got right up to Cordmaker and just never went by. I don't know. I mean, it's such a hard call because to me, this is another race where I either use many of them or I hone in on these 2 who I'm acknowledging have flaws. And it's just it creates a really difficult position in a multi-race sequence like this because you're either, upping your budget considerably or you're narrowing it considerably, but you're doing so with 2 horses that I don't trust, very much, honestly.
Yeah, where did that 98 buyer come from? I mean, now he's a brand new horse. I mean, I don't know. I mean, he's Maryland bred. I feel again, and by the way, when Matt talked about Beau Luminaire, who I have third, Matt, I think he's the one horse that I'm very interested in here. As Matt mentioned, and again, if you're not familiar with the blue and red coded numbers, Matt mentioned the slow paces, and you see those blue coded numbers here in the PPs. Beau Luminaire has not gotten paces to run into. And if he gets, and he's more of a closer, so you would think if they go hot and heavy up front, Beau Luminaire might be the one to benefit. You might get 8-1. It was off a little bit of a layoff for Rudy Brissett. I'm not really too concerned about that, frankly. I was by the way, the horse that we saw on screen, Matt, I apologize. The one who tipped out on the outside in the replay was Popular Kid, the 5 on Saturday, who could not have gotten a better trip. So I'm completely against Popular Kid in this spot based on the last replay. Because if he couldn't win last time, how is he going to win this time? I chalked out with Plainsman and Warriors Charge. I have Plainsman on top. I know he's the favorite. This is just, I hate myself for even doing it, Matt. But to be honest, I mean, he's the most consistent. He doesn't need the lead. He's in great form. He's second off the layoff. I mean, I I can't think of any reasons not to take him other than I just don't want to take a short price. And to me, that's a little bit of stinking thinking. I mean, I want to hit this pick 5. I've got a podcast pool that I've started, Matt, where people are investing in some of my plays. We're having a lot of fun with it. I want to hit for the people. I want to hit for myself. I'm going to try to find some other races, ones we've mentioned already, these main races, try to beat the chalks. Other than Beau Luminaire, I don't know. It just seems like this could be chalky. Warriors Charge, you already talked about. By the way, Marshall Graham's listening. He doesn't like the fact. I think we're gonna get a call from Marshall Graham. By the way, great guy. If you don't know Marshall Graham, with 10 Strike Racing, I know you know him as well. But even he has told me, privately that this horse has got his little quirks and doesn't like to pass sometimes. And Matt was exactly right, ladies and gentlemen. He won last time. But that was a bad field, by the way. I just want to show that field before we talk about the last race. I shouldn't say bad.
I was going to say I wouldn't go that
he's
far.
not real good. I mean, compared to the others, here are the buyers. You folks, you can see for yourself. I mean, the horses that he beat are basically running the low mid 80s. I mean, it's not a great field. This is a much better field. So I don't know. Any other thoughts before we move on? It's tricky, Matt. The favorites look logical, but again, it's hard to find a price other than maybe the 7.
Well, no, and I mean it goes into philosophy in constructing tickets. Again, if you're going through and you're playing ABCs and you're pressing up opinions, I mean Plainsman makes all the sense in the world. You're going to just press him up relatively hard to make sure that you end up getting some sort of a return, especially if the entire sequence ends up being chalky. For me, if I only want to put in sort of a small ticket, I don't know, I'm going to say $40. Let's say I want to take a flyer. I'm not looking to take 40 and turn it into 80 or 100. I want to try to take 40 and turn it into 400 or 4,000. And the only way I think you can do that in a race like this is to try to toss some of the logical horses the same way we talked about those maiden races. And I'm sure a lot of people would question why you would willingly go in to a play knowing that it doesn't have a likely chance of hitting. But that's exactly what the whole idea of probability and making sure the odds are making up for that sort of situation are. I mean, I talk about it all the time with overlays and sports betting. I've got a couple of hockey bets tonight. One of them is like a 31% probability, but I'm being rewarded considerably more than that. And that's all you're trying to do. You're just trying to make sure that you get your money in right. And to me, if I don't know that I love some of the chalks, all right, yeah, maybe I'll lose 40 or $50, but I know if I, for whatever reason, am right, may only happen once in a blue moon. But if I am, I'm going to get paid in a pretty big way.
Yeah, I'm just looking. I'm trying to get an Indiana score here. Do you have? I know
they're
busy.
They're getting their doors blown off.
Is this a major host fail, as PTF would say, or am I allowed to do this on the first night of the NCAA tournament here?
They're getting the doors blown off. It's 50-31 St. Mary's.
Wow. Okay, my instinct was right. I do have a bet on St. Mary's too, just -3 without the parlay. So
UK is in a battle with St. Peter's, 58-58.
Wow. How much time?
I mean,
Can't say.
we're
Okay, whatever.
seven,
I'll tell you.
seven and change.
There we go. Yeah, I see it right now. Gonzaga was in a battle until what the 13-minute mark. I mean, it's
Yeah,
crazy.
it was unfortunate for Georgia State that they had one of their kids get hurt, and then they had
Oh,
everybody else in foul trouble. And
okay.
it was just a matter. They basically just war of attrition wore them down.
Wow. Okay. Yeah, I was busy getting ready for a bunch of stuff and took a little cat nap because I had a long day at work. Anyway, all right, let's talk about the last race, Matt. Again, thanks for joining us tonight. We all really appreciate you coming. I think was this your third? Is this your third time on the show? I
Um,
believe it's number three. I
yeah,
believe,
that sounds about right.
which would match my times I've been on your show. I think because I
I
was
haven't had a
the
guest
first
on
three.
mine in a while.
No, you haven't. But I think I was the first time 3-time guest, and
Yes,
maybe if you bring that format back, I'd love to be on again, of course. But
totally.
we'll see what happens with the way you the formatting. All right, let's go in the last race, Matt. I'll take us off the screen. Allowance race, a mile. How about 106,000?
Nice.
106,000, incredible. N1X at Oaklawn. Congratulations to them for their purses, outstanding. These are for the girls, 3-year-olds and up. There's going to be another, I think, pretty heavy favorite in this race in the 7, Pharaoh's Heart for Asmussen and Rosario and Little Red Feather. Only 5-2 morning line. I got to believe this horse will be much lower than that come post time, Matt.
Yeah, given the figs that she's got to her name, I mean, she just. If you're someone playing just the numbers, she makes all the sense in the world to the point where she should probably be 7-5 in this spot as opposed to 5-2. I don't know. I just look at her and I think she's. I don't know. I get bad vibes out of her, bad juju. She could win this
Really?
race at a short. Yeah, I just
Okay.
I don't know.
Tell us why.
I don't see it. I think she's fine and just fine. I think she's a vulnerable type to me at a really, really short number. And
Mm,
again, to your point, we just talked about it. I think she's a fraction of that morning line, which is what makes this appealing to me because I really like the horse drawn just to her outside, the other Asmussen in here, Sundial.
hmm.
I think Sundial is a one of those horses that, yeah, that most recent run doesn't look very good. Keep in mind, that was in June of last year. She's been gone for a long, long time. Clearly, something went wrong for them to stop on her entirely. The run two back when she broke her maiden, I thought she moved beautifully. I thought it was a really, really good effort. She just basically stalked beautifully, took over, drew off, won for fun. The third place finisher came back and earned a 75 in the next start, kind of solidifying that that was a quality race in the grand scheme of things. All the figs seemed to jive. This one's actually got a pretty decent pedigree as well. On the dam side,
Yeah.
she's a half to Time in Motion, who was a grade 1 turf winner. And there was
Yeah.
also some other quality in here as well. It's not like this is a family that didn't produce anything.
You can see on
You
the
know,
screen there, Moment in Dixie. Sorry to interrupt you. I'm just if you want to. Awesome. That was a nice horse.
yeah.
Just
I
scrolling
mean,
down.
the Live Your Beast Life, who I believe finished what, second or third in the Jim Dandy, something like that.
Yeah.
So there's some quality in this pedigree, and if you look at that run and say, okay, she broke her maiden at Oaklawn, going a mile and a 16th, earned a 74 as an early 3-year-old, is it plausible? Maybe not likely, but is it plausible that she jumps up into a high 80 sort of range from a buyer standpoint? I think that's totally within reason. And if a high 80 at least puts her in, let's say, in with a puncher's chance, especially when you look at Pharaoh's Heart, who's going to be a fraction of the price, I don't know. I mean, I would much rather take Sundial, who I think has more tactical speed and I think has more upside than Pharaoh's Heart does. So for me, it's a pretty heavy push to the 8 in here, acknowledging that the most likely winner of the race is the 7, Pharaoh's Heart. I don't love her by any stretch of the imagination. And then Ursulina on the outside, the 11. That would be my third choice in here.
Okay. Ursulina's 9-2 for D Wayne, who might appreciate the stretch out by more than ready out of a Harlan's Holiday mare. Matt, again, you and I are either going to be very right or very wrong on Saturday because I have to say it again. I don't mean to fanboy, but it makes me feel really good inside to know. It really does, honestly, to know that we're thinking similarly because you've definitely rubbed off on me and so have a lot of others. This is the one I'm interested in the most. I will say, out of honesty and fairness, Pharaoh's Heart is my lone A and is my only lone A as of now in the sequence. Although you might change my mind a little bit, but I just think of all the races in the sequence, this one seems the most logical and the one I can trust the most, especially based off the fact that she's already gone 2 turns in California and ran in the 90s. I see no reason why she can't get back to a high 80s low 90s, and there were a lot of horses that aren't even close to that. But the one that I'm interested in, and I have it written down as my only B, is Sundial. All the reasons you said. The whole jockey musical chairs. Am I reading too much into that, Matt? I mean, should Rosario be on the 8 for us to be more interested? Or actually, do you like Vasquez on the 8 because that'll give you a better price?
Yeah, I mean, personally, Pete and I have talked about it in the past on the late week show for the Players Pod that doesn't really mean a great deal to me. Maybe if we're Derby time and you've got riders selecting one horse over another, maybe I read a little bit more into it. But kind of on the day-to-day business side of things, who knows how long certain folks have been committed to certain rides and all that sort of stuff. Doesn't really get me too bent out of shape. The one thing I would ask you real quick, because I didn't take a look.
Yeah.
Can you look at Dialed In's turf numbers as a stallion? Off the top of my head, I don't think they're particularly good, which
Dialed
would
in
make sense.
Turf numbers, you said, right?
Yeah,
Sure.
because I mean
Yeah.
this is a very good turf family on the bottom. So I'm
It
curious
is.
why she's not been on the grass yet.
Okay, this is acting very unusually slow, and I have absolutely no idea why.
Hang on, I might be able to swing it over here. I
As
won't be able to
this is
show it
live,
off,
this
but
is the beauty of live. What do you say on your show when you're looking at the screen and you give
oh,
yourself a hard time?
everybody loves to hear. When you're listening to a podcast, you want to hear somebody
Yeah.
stalling, looking for things.
There it is. I mean,
It's not
Turf
bad.
Router's 1.6 million. Must be some nice. Let's see,
10% roughly with turf
Yeah,
routers.
sorry,
I mean,
let me go back.
no. I mean, it's fine. I got it on mine as well.
Okay. Yeah, I was going to. Oh, you wanted the percent. I thought you wanted the percent.
Yeah, no, just more a matter of I find it
13%, 10%. I was just trying to see who the horses were that ran on the turf out of this horse. I can't think off the top of my head. But anyway, go ahead as we digress.
Yeah, no, just more a matter of I think it's always curious when
Sprinter
you have
for O'Neill.
Yep.
Won a decent amount of the turf. Anyway, that's okay. We don't take the. Let's see. Oh, Muggeritz, a horse, for Jonathan Wong. That's a horse we know and kept from California. Yeah, I mean a little bit, nothing spectacular.
Yeah, I'm always curious when you've got such a good grass family, why she's yet to try it. I would venture a guess that if for whatever reason she doesn't run well here or going forward, they at least find out at some point, maybe when you get to Churchill Downs.
Well, I took the Pete. She was on the sit in the first 2 starts, though, so they were thinking maybe somewhere. Maybe they just got a little. Not Derby fear. She's your 3-year-old filly. I don't know. Good question. It'll be interesting to see.
Well, keep in mind too. Those first 2 races at Turfway, all well and good. You just look at the purses. I mean, it's 3 times what the Turfway ones are at Oaklawn. You at least find out.
Yeah.
And she took to it. She ran well. Well enough. She broke her maiden on it. So
absolutely. Matt, I don't know if you have 1 minute. I'm going to show my pick 5, and you can criticize it. How's that?
I won't criticize.
It's critique. How's that? Is that a better word?
Sure.
Let's critique. Here's my. I know how you feel on the end here because you don't want to single Pharaoh's Heart. I totally get it. I mean, no problem there. There's my, and I'm real cheap. I want to go cheap tonight. I have Beau Luminaire there. You see in the second to last leg, the 7. So I got that horse. I've got 5. I have the 5 in the third leg, even though I'm trying to beat. But is that the Major General? I think it was the 7 in the third leg. I think the first race, again, I'm using the one everyone, Must-I Warrior. I'm trying to beat this horse with a lot of horses that Matt is using. Actually, we have somewhat similar opinions. Just real quick as we end the show here, Matt, I'm going to leave you on to end the show if that's okay as we close out. How would you construct this ticket? Because there are a lot of, obvious lower price horses. I know you're going to try to beat. Is there a horse you would lean on, whether the horse would be a middling price or a low price in the sequence for those people that have a lower budget that want to play this pick 5?
Yeah, so when I was bringing up the idea of if you are going to play the ABC kind of method, even with a shorter ticket or a smaller ticket with fewer options, I'll still probably press up opinions, knowing that, let's say I budget $50 for the play. I may only have a total of, I'm making it up, 15 horses, probably less than that, 12 horses for the entire sequence. But I'm going to really hammer home the opinions that I like, knowing that if I'm right, I want to just make sure that I get the most bang for my buck. So in that first leg, I would really press up Battle Call, the 8 horse. I'll also use the 3 and the 4 in there as sort of backups, but I'd really press up the 8. In the 7th race, I'd press up Tulane Trist, acknowledging that Bob's Edge. And again, you got to differentiate most likely with sort of optimizing your dollar, because I do think Bob's Edge is a likelier winner than Tulane Trist. Having said that, I think Tulane Trist is going to offer more value than Bob's Edge. And I think there's more upside there. To your point, you brought up the idea of potential with that horse. So I'd probably press that one up as well. The problem is you get a race like race 8 where I go, I don't really like any of them, if I'm being honest. The 7 Major Contender would be the one that I would use. But beyond that, I'm either going really deep or I'm going to just stand on him and say, look, if he wins, great, I'm alive. If not, I didn't waste too much money. I hate getting into sequences or instances where I feel like I'm just throwing money out there just to throw it out there to try to be alive. It's a really tough spot. If I wasn't so indecisive in race 9, the Essex, maybe I would be more inclined to say I'll spread deep in that maiden special in race 8. But because I think that 9th race is kind of a stinker as well, and I like a couple of horses that I don't trust much, I'm going to really keep it narrow. So I'd only go with the 8 horse, and that's that 8th race. Or it was the 8 horse? No, 7 horse in the 8th race.
Yeah.
And then in the 9th, I would go with those 2 outside runners, Beau Luminaire, as well as Analyze Houdini, knowing that, you know what, they could probably get close. They're probably better, if we're being honest, underneath in exactas and tries and supers, because that's what they like to do. They like to run underneath. And then if we're alive in that last leg, I'd press up Sundial. But I also want to make it clear, you say that Pharaoh's Heart is your only A. If you're playing just on the paper, I mean, she is borderline a standout, purely on numbers, because, I mean, look, no one in here has proven that they can run anything close to a low to mid 90, and she's done it 2 or 3 times. So I wouldn't argue with anyone that likes Pharaoh's Heart. I just, for whatever reason, and I get some of these horses sometimes, I just don't totally trust her at a really short price. And I think Sundial genuinely has a big chance.
Yeah, I agree. And everyone knows at home I play ABCs, everyone. So and my podcast plays an ABC. So I'll be pressing up with opinions and try to beat some of these favorites. Matt, as we end the show, any final thoughts? Anything going on in the NCAA you want to keep people live up to date on, or anything going on in your world going forward here coming up as the Derby preps are about to come to a close here in the next few weeks?
I mean, Connecticut's in trouble. There's 16 seconds left, and they're down 3. Kentucky's only up 6 with a couple minutes to go. And look, the good news for you, you don't have to keep an eye on the Indiana game, because that is free money at this point, my friend.
Wow.
That is you're home and hosed at that point. You've already won the race.
Maybe I should show on Twitter. I do have 75 on the money line, not the money line. Sorry, -3, 70, and the parlay keeps me alive too. I need Murray State and Vermont now going forward. Matt, listen, thanks, man. Really appreciate you being on the show. Everyone loves listening to you, watching you. We'll see you, of course, on some of the network broadcasts here going forward. You're not going to be at the Derby. Are you going to be at the Derby?
No, probably not.
Okay, probably not.
Got some personal stuff going on.
Yes, I apologize. I forgot about that. Anyway, good reason why you won't be there. Appreciate being on the show. Look forward to having you on again, Matt. And we'll see you down the road, my friend.
You got it, Howard. Anytime, buddy.
All right. This has been episode 120 of the HHH Racing Podcast. That guy over there. Oh, I got to do the opposite. That guy over there is, right? Matt knows what I'm talking about. That's good. Matt Bernier. I'm Howard Kravitz. Thanks, everyone. Good luck Saturday at Oaklawn for a great day of racing in Hot Springs, Arkansas. And don't forget, really quick, next Wednesday, Chad Schexnader, we're going to chop up Louisiana Derby Day. And then, Matt, how about this? Live with 2 great friends of mine who are awesome. Maybe you'll get to meet them someday. From the UK, Davy Lane, Philip Edwards. We're going to be live talking about the Dubai World Cup race card so we can smash that card. Take care, everyone. Good luck with the NCAA picks. Have a great night.